Hey everybody, Bella here. I am making this video very informally because I had trouble finding information that was sort of concise but also relevant about how to pick your real estate broker. So of course when you get your real estate license you are required to work under a broker for 2 years, and then you can take your brokerage exam and go out on your own. But for the most part, most people work for some type of brokerage, whether it be Century 21, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker. These are some of the larger firms, Remax. A lot of them are franchises, and then there's also smaller, not necessarily smaller, but local brokerage companies as well. So there were roughly 50 companies that I had to pick from, and so I'm still narrowing it down, but I have come up with a system that has just made it a little bit easier to deal with. And so I'm going to go over my list and the kind of things that I wanted to ask my in each interview. And just keep in mind, this is said in a lot of videos, but you are interviewing them. They are not interviewing you. You may be feeling each other out to see if it's a good fit and whether or not you guys can work together and whether or not you like their personality. But at the end of the day, this is sort of a business decision for you to make and what's best for you and what suits your needs. So the first thing I wrote down was bring a sheet of your questions when you interview with them. Kind of shows that you are on point and that you are kind of, invested in this and you value their time. You have a sort of bullet point list. I had a list that I made sort of like a Word document with all the questions, and I left space to answer the questions. And so I sort of took this same sheet to every interview. That way I would have some standard of measurement. I put at the top of the sheet what time the interview was, where the interview was, who the interview was with, and sort of left the questions all the same. That way I could compare and contrast the different questions. Some of the questions that you want to ask, obviously the number one thing that everyone wants to know is, what is my commission split going to be? So you need to be very clear about this. Some people that I've interviewed with have been a little bit vague, and I really didn't like that. Or there were maybe hidden fees or something like that. So just know your commission split. One of the questions that I asked was about desk fees, because some offices charge you a desk fee and then they also charge you for printing things and transaction fees. So you want to ask about all of this stuff up front. Also, I ask, what does your firm provide for me? Because a lot of the firms provide training, which is really important, either a mentor that is assigned to you or some kind of online training. A lot of firms will have like quarterly boot camps and things that they do to get the new real estate agents up to par on industry standards. So what does your firm provide is a good question. One thing that I asked is, what am I expected to pay out of pocket? And one thing that I really appreciated about one firm was they had literally a list of everything that I had to buy and pretty much told me up front that this is what it's going to cost to get started. And most new agents know it's going to be about $1,500 to $2,000 just to get your foot in the door, literally, to get licensed and take your class and get all of the MLS fees and things. So just kind of ask about that, and that is pretty much only really the startup costs of any business. So also ask about signs, business cards, lock boxes, and headshots. So a lot of times these are the things that companies provide. So you just have to ask and see whether or not they're going to provide that. Another question that you can get into, you may not want to get into this early on in the interview, but is there a commission cap, and can you renegotiate your commission once you've made that firm so much money? For instance, once I make you guys $15,000 within a calendar year, is commission up for renegotiation. For instance, like, I've made you all this money, now I would like to go from 70-30 split to 85-15 split. And it really just depends on each firm, and a lot of it has to do with how new you are. And obviously, we feel like we don't really have a lot of bargaining power because we are new, but at the same time, if you get in and you really knock it out of the park, that could be something that you could negotiate on later. Just don't be afraid to negotiate, because I feel like a lot of people are, and it's not necessarily anything to be afraid of. Just be, you know, approachable, and it should be fine. One of the questions I actually put on here was, who would I call if I had a question? Like, who would I reach out to? Would I call you? Would I have a mentor? Would I have somebody in the office who can answer my questions? It's just sort of a straightforward question, but it can sometimes catch people off guard when they're doing an interview if you say, like, hey, who's going to be there at, you know, 9 o'clock at night when I'm doing this paperwork and I don't understand what I'm filling out. So another thing that I really paid attention to was every firm that I looked at, I would go and I would look specifically at their Facebook page, but then I would look at their website as well. And I would also look at their Google reviews, if they have Yelp reviews, and I would look at how they're collecting leads from these sources. So some of their websites, the good websites, obviously have a lead funnel where you can take in someone's email and contact info, and basically it just says, like, hey, if you're interested in this house, leave your information below. Okay, so they leave their information, that's a lead for you, and that's a lead where you know that they have some interest already, so you're not cold calling them. So that is one thing that I really pay attention to. I don't even go interview until I've looked at their website and their Facebook page, because if their website is crappy, then I do not want to work for them. Like, I'm sorry, but you've had long enough to figure out how social media works. Like, get it together. A lot of the Facebook pages are individually based on each agent. So, like, you might have for instance, Remax and then somebody's name. So that's cool if that's just them, because that is their own brand that they're building. But as far as having their own Facebook page, they still need to have a Facebook page that's relatively active, that's for the whole group of everyone, if that makes any sense. Because you want to have some kind of relevancy in the community, and something for people to see regularly. That to me seems pretty useful, and Facebook is really where a lot of people start looking at homes, believe it or not. Facebook and Zillow are big traffic drivers. Okay, so another question that I asked them in my interviews is, are you okay with me doing an Instagram and a YouTube for my personal brand within your brokerage firm? And so that sort of lets them know that I am going to be going heavy into video and photo marketing. One thing that I feel like my generation is particularly strong at is marketing and in general, selling our life to people. So if they were not okay with me having like a YouTube channel, I would be like, there's something wrong with y'all. Most people are cool with it, but you can kind of tell that the older people are sort of like confused about, well, I don't think they really realize how much influence YouTube has, and so they just sort of see it as this weird like video thing. But anyways, the next question that I asked was expected workload. How many hours do you want me to come in, if any at all? So some firms have a mandatory phone time that every agent has to come in. So the thing about that is that I have other things to do. I'm not trying to come in and answer the phone when I don't want to. A big reason that I'm pursuing real estate is to be a real estate investor and to learn about the market, not necessarily to sit on the phone all day. So while I think that can be good because you can get leads by sitting on the phone, pretty much I was striking out any firm that told me that I had to come in, because that is a job. And you're pretty much paying them already through your commission, so I don't really feel like you should have to pay any more to work for them. That's my personal belief. Sometimes, I mean, I think it's very good to come into the office and to learn and to be around other people, but mandatory coming into the office is like, honestly, I view it like school. If you paid for the class and you can pass the class, then you shouldn't have to go to it if you don't want to go. It's like mandatory attendance is, you know, kind of ridiculous. So that was a question that I asked, like, what is the expected workload? Are there things that I'm expected to do here other than sell a house or show a house? Or, I mean, all of the things that real estate agents do, of course, is going to go under this. But as far as, like, being in the office, that was something that I had to know about up front. So one of the questions that I asked is, what is the biggest problem that this agency has? And that's another good question to catch people off guard, because a lot of them will straight up tell you, like, well, we have trouble working with this group of buyers, or we have trouble recruiting people through online leads, or, you know, we're not doing so hot on Facebook with our Facebook marketing. So you can kind of get some information, and maybe you're good at one of those things and you can sort of fill in that gap for them and be a really good asset on their team. Okay, the last thing on my list, I asked, like, how would you compare yourself to blank, blank, and blank? And these were basically all the other firms that were comparable in the area. And so you can gauge a lot about what if a person's going to say, like, bad things about the other firms, then that's kind of a red flag. And I guess speaking of red flags, here's one thing that I wrote down. Are they pressuring you? Do you feel like you're in a sales pitch when you go to this meeting? Because that is really important. You should feel comfortable. You should be the one asking questions. You should be the one, if anything, who feels like they have the floor. So, are they pressuring you? Are they using words like always, never, and foolproof? If they use those words, your little ears should perk up. If they say, we always close the sale, we never lose a client, our systems are foolproof, then that is your BS detector should be on, because that is, you know, never speak in absolutes. That's the only time you can do that. Never speak in absolutes. See how I did that? Okay, next. How are you going to build your brand? So a lot of real estate agents will go on a team when they first start out. So basically you have this team and there's a team leader, and it's like a weird pyramid scheme within a real estate firm, and your team leader sort of is the head honcho, and you split part of your commission with them. So teams can be good for realtors who basically don't have a lot of experience and sort of need to be not really handheld, but they need some extra guidance, and they're not really internally motivated. They're more like externally motivated, and they need someone to walk them through. I'm not saying that's the only reason for a team, but I'm just saying that's kind of the purpose for joining a team as a brand new agent, because obviously you probably don't know anybody on this team. So yeah, you have to kind of decide, like, a lot of real estate firms around here either are all the agents are individual, or there's like teams of 8 people, there may be teams of 4 or 5 people. So I guess kind of research teams and know whether or not you would want to do something like that, so you won't be caught off guard when they ask you about it in an interview, because I was kind of confused about that concept, and I honestly still am, because I don't I'm more of like a what I earn is mine and what you earn is yours type, but I can definitely see the value in teams and understand the argument. So the biggest thing is to sort of have this standard of measurement, the same questions that you're asking everyone, because if you ask everyone the same questions, you have a system to determine the things you want to know, and you're also getting a little bit of their personality that comes out in each one of these, because everyone's not going to answer the questions the same. Like, hopefully they don't have, you know, rehearsed responses. And I actually asked to see around the offices. I'm like, they bring me in one room when I get ready to leave. I'm like, do you mind showing me around the rest of the office? Because I would kind of like to see where I would be working and what my day-to-day would look like here. So that is something that I would ask them at the end of the interview. One thing that I wrote down here is, do you like them? Do you like their personality? Because if you don't jive with these people, like I'm talking like every agent in the building, the secretary, you don't have to be one big family, but you do have to kind of like the vibe, and you have to like their style. Are they more laid back? Are they more professional? Do they come in wearing suits, or do they come in wearing their jeans? You know, is it more of a casual atmosphere, or is it strictly like professional? So I hope this video sort of, I don't know, highlights some of the things that I was looking for. When I first started my search, I was kind of like, where do I even begin? Like, there's so many things to factor in. Like, how do I know if this is a good firm, or they're just selling me on this because they want another agent? And so you can actually kind of ruled them out based on some different factors. I am still going to keep interviewing with a few more. I think it's good to interview with at least 3 to 5 firms before you actually decide who you're going to go with. So I'm going to make a video and announce who I wind up going with whenever I make the decision. But I take my test on August the 2nd, which is like 4 days from now. Hopefully I pass it. I've been listening to Prep Agent, and I've been listening to Brian Casella, and a couple other real estate agents who are just killing it and really are good in terms of motivation and stuff. So this channel is not really shifting out of real estate, but it is not really shifting out of sales because I'm doing real estate, but it is sort of shifting a little bit in terms of still doing Amazon and still doing everything else, but I am sort of losing my drive for that because I've done it for so long, and this is sort of what is making me energized right now. So yeah, hopefully this video helps you pick a broker to work for. Again, it is a decision that can be changed, so like if you freak out and you wind up that you have made a terrible mistake, you can always change brokers. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, hopefully this helped you out, and I look forward to making many more real estate videos once I am actually qualified to talk about real estate. Thanks for watching.